Hello YouTubers, my name is Frederick Lopez, you're in an all-new Binge Reviews, and I just got done watching Penny Dreadful Season 3. And wow, it hit me really hard. Now, for those who haven't seen it yet, go check it out, but go start the series from the beginning. And if you want to check out my Binge Reviews, check those out for Seasons 1 and 2. But if you haven't seen Season 3, do not watch this video because the only way to really review this final season is to include spoilers. So this will include spoilers. With that said, it was a great conclusion. It was really heartfelt and heavy. Now, before I go more in depth, I did hear that this was a final season. I didn't get to catch this show on Showtime, so I just binge watched the entire series the past couple of months on Netflix. And I basically watched Season 3 in almost a day, really, just a couple of hours. I started at nighttime and stopped at 2 and then started again at 12 and ended it earlier this afternoon. And it was really good. So I'm going to go over what it's about, my favorite moments, and what I ultimately think of this season and the series as a whole. So where does Season 3 begin? Well, Season 3 pretty much starts off where Season 2 left off. Eric Chandler is basically captured. He's on his way home. They shaved his head. Josh Hartnett is imprisoned. And it starts with him around New Mexico in a train. And each character is set up in different stories. They're all apart from one another. Vanessa Ives is home. She's not going out. She's afraid. She's scratching her hands. And she's become like this hermit of some sort. Timothy Dalton's character, Malcolm Murray, he pretty much is in Africa, burying his friend, and that's where we're introduced to a new character. Wes Study's character, Katney. He's a Native American. He helps Timothy Dalton's character out, Malcolm Murray, and he says, we both need to help who we consider our son, Josh Hartnett's character. He's in danger. So after that, we see where Caliban is, the creature, Frankenstein's monster. He's in the Arctic somewhere. He eventually makes his way back home. But all of them have different stories, and it's very disjointed at the beginning, but I kind of like it because it really sets the tone for this conclusive season. The culmination of the past 2 years begins in this season at the beginning, and everybody kind of has to fight their own inner demons before coming together at the end. I loved all the stuff. Pretty much with Josh Hartnett's character, this gang of people kidnap him, and he's on the run. Eventually, Sarah Green's character, who is the daughter of the witch from Season 2, comes to his rescue. And part of the prophecy why Katney's worried and is talking to Timothy Dalton is the fact that this witch is going to corrupt him. He's been having visions of famine and disease and legions of the undead walking upon the world. Darkness. The world being consumed by darkness, and Josh Hartnett's at the center of that. So he wants to stop it. He knows this witch is corrupting him. Meanwhile, Vanessa Ives goes to this doctor and just basically needs to get over her issues and problems and just ultimately get her life back together after everything that's occurred in the first 2 seasons. And we meet Dr. Seward. And also, Renfield is added in this season as her secretary clerk, which is cool because there's a lot of throwbacks to the novel Dracula by Bram Stoker. So if you're an aficionado of Dracula or all things vampires, you're going to see a lot of references to previous material in this. But pretty much, Dr. Seward is played by Patti LuPone. You find out she's a descendant of the Cut Wife, which is why they have the same actress, so that was kind of cool. And another person to help Vanessa Ives out. Ultimately, you meet Josh Hartnett's dad, and it's played by actor Brian Cox. There's a lot of good backstory stuff there. And then Vanessa Ives wants to reconnect with the world, and she meets Dr. Sweet. And it turns out that it's Dracula. You find out he is Dracula. It's in the House of the Dragon. He's seducing her. So Vanessa Ives being seduced by Dracula while everybody else is dealing with their business. So pretty much Malcolm Murray and Katney catch up to Josh Hartnett. There's a whole showdown there with the guy from Scotland Yard, Josh Hartnett's father, the witch, just everything. To make a long story short, the witch dies, Sarah Green's character passes away, Josh Hartnett goes back, and then they make their way to London to help out Vanessa Ives before it's too late, and it may already be too late. So the whole time we're dealing with loose ends being tied up to it, and Vanessa Ives is by herself being seduced by Dracula. And I didn't get to mention this in my season 2 review, but I love the whole twist about Lucifer and Dracula being the same person but split. So in hell, Lucifer is the soul part, while the body and blood is Dracula in heaven. Legions. We are Legion. I love that twist. It is cool. Even though son of the dragon, it'd be like son of the devil practically. That those brothers cast out. I thought that was a very cool twist and something new and refreshing to a character like Dracula who's been told over and over and over, and Lucifer, of course. That was interesting, getting those two types of evils and making it one. And speaking of that, I love the flashback episode with Caliban's character where you find out who he was before he died, before Victor Frankenstein resurrected him, and that him and Vanessa Ives knew one another. When Dr. Seward's putting her under hypnosis. Such a great and just like heartfelt episode. It's a really intense episode, and it parallels with Caliban's character. Now Caliban finds this place to stay at, and it turns out it's his old home, and he starts having memories. And that whole arc was just tragic. And John Clare, played by Rory Kinnear, is such a tragic character, and he's one of my favorite characters, and he does a hell of a job not only in the first and second season, but this season really is just like the most tragic character. There's a lot of tragedy in Penny Dreadful with all the characters, but Rory Kinnear does such a fantastic job as Caliban that as John Clare, Frankenstein's monster, you just really feel for him. Even when you think he's found happiness, the world has a way of just turning on him. And he finds his wife and child. His son ends up dying, and he pretty much has to leave his wife. She doesn't want to stay with him because she wants to resurrect him she wants Victor Frankenstein to resurrect the child like he was resurrected. And he's like, I don't wish that upon anyone. So he really doesn't get a happy ending after all of that. And I liked that episode, Vanessa Ives and him in the mental institute, because it paralleled with what was going on. It paralleled with what was going on in his life and remembering his previous life before he was resurrected. And he even hated poetry and stuff, which is John Clare he loves. So I found that very interesting. Dorian Gray had so much more to do with Lily. It got crazy. They started getting like an army of women and whores to basically like cause a whole bunch of carnage and death. And it was nuts. We get to be introduced to Dr. Jekyll. Later on ends up being known as Mr. Hyde. But not in the way you think. Victor Frankenstein's good. Everything was great, I thought, but it felt like it was leaning towards a much bigger conclusion with legions and stuff, and I felt like some of the subplots had to get cut down, or maybe they were just unresolved, which is not a bad thing. And supposedly, after Season 2, they knew that this was going to be the ending. They had one less episode than the previous season, and it said the end. But some part of me is wondering if they just barely found out, because even though Vanessa Ives' character story arc ends, everything else feels like it's unresolved. And they even introduced some new characters, and I was like, why did they do that? I know there's more to go on, more anguish for the characters individually in the world, but it felt like they were building up to something more than what we got. And I felt like it ended a little bit prematurely. But that's not to say it's a bad ending. Pretty much, they get to London, and Vanessa Ives confronts Dr. Sweet, finds out he's Dracula, and she gets turned. She gets turned to a vampire, and that was just tragic and just like, oh my god, I could not believe what happened. And Penny Dreadful has done vampires right, because lately vampires have been romanticized, and it's been a long time since I saw something where I was actually just like pissed off and knew something bad happened when someone was turned into a vampire. And I felt it in this show when Vanessa Ives eventually got turned to the darkness. Carolina Hartigan is a great addition to the show. I feel like she could be part of the team with Murray and Talbot. Josh Hartnett's character Chandler, I feel like they could be a team, but she was a cool addition, knowing stuff about Dracula and the history, and then eventually fighting with them. So it's Victor Frankenstein, Dr. Seward in them. Great stuff fighting. Dorian Gray's moment where he comes back after bringing Lily to Victor was just fantastic, and he was truly evil. And you really get to see the pain he's feeling and the boredom. And that's one thing about the characters, is that Victor Frankenstein found strength, but like Lily and John Clare are left with pain of the memories of their past lives. They were going to basically put an experiment, which I thought was going to be Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde type of serum, but it turned out it went nowhere. But I thought they were going to make her normal, and he decided not to be a monster anymore. He started acting like human, and this is a really great series and season. an analysis of like characters being monsters. What is a monster? What is not a monster? Monsters can be in many different forms, whether normal or supernatural. So I find that interesting. Dorian Gray has a ending, like pretty much, even though they has some subplots, each character has their own individual ending of where they can go. Life goes on, of course, but for the story, I feel like they have a fitting conclusion. But anyways, that last fight where they wolf out, fight all the legions of the damned, and I love Dr. Stewart where she's just like, fuck him, when Dracula started talking about Amina being bit. Was great. But that last scene was tragic. Everything that was built up to it with Eric and Vanessa Ives together. And Josh Hartnett and Eva Green did such a fantastic job. The actors and the writing have been so great in all 3 seasons. But like this, I usually get disappointed by finales, but this is like a book. It's a beginning, middle, and end. Penny Dreadful as a whole, as a series, is like a trilogy. And the last episode, episode 9, season 3, was just heartbreaking. It felt heavy because you were invested and you related to these characters. You were with them since the beginning. So to have it end was very, very climatic and very dramatic in a way. And her finding God again with them saying the Our Father prayer and then him shooting her, having to kill her, was just tragic. Because if she dies, there's no prize for Lucifer or Dracula, and hence no end of days. So they prevented that. And that was just really kind of tragic. I wish they got Dracula though. I hate how he ran off. I really wanted them to like chop his head off or something. But yeah, he pretty much lost. But it was a bittersweet ending. It ended with her funeral, and then John Clare's poem after he buried his kid in the river. He goes to Vanessa Ives' grave and then he recites that poem in the narration, and it just pretty much not only sums up the episode but the whole series from the beginning. Vanessa Ives was always going to have torment. It's about being a monster and dealing with pain and anguish and sorrow for all the characters and their inner demons. And I found it really bittersweet, and it was great seeing the end on there. I felt like I watched a novel unfold. And of course the future of the characters is unknown, but they're literary characters, so they're probably going to be based upon the literature that they're from. So we'll have to see. Rumors of a season 4 being made on Netflix, like a spinoff, is being talked about, but I didn't see it on Showtime, so I heard this year that not many people knew it was the end, and I wasn't sure how it was going to end. I knew she was going to die, but like it still surprised me. I didn't know she was going to be turned to a vampire, and everything just felt so climatic. The last 3 episodes, once she's turned to the darkness, it gets really intense, and everything's just like thrown out the window. It's just like all bets are off in this trilogy. When you get to that 3rd installment, such as Penny Dreadful Season 3, all bets are off. And they were. But I felt that they told a really great thematic story, and it was well made. And probably one of the most different and well-made television series of recent years. It felt like it was something original. And I'm not sure if I'll see anything quite like it anytime soon. If they do have something like it, I kind of wish it takes... I kind of wish it gets a little bit more fun, like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen or something. But I did like how grounded in reality these characters were, even though there are supernatural elements. So if I had to give it a score, I would give it I like Season 2 a little bit better, but I like this one better than Season 1. But there are certain character moments and just some episodes that were really great. And the cinematography, music, just everything felt epic and grand. And that intro change at the beginning of the final episode was really sad. I knew it was going to happen, but still it gets to you from beginning to end of just like, something's different here and something's about to happen. This is the end. And it was fantastic. But yeah, that's pretty much my quick binge review. I know it has some spoilers and this review may have been a little disjointed, but I'm just trying to gather my thoughts. It's a heavy episode. It's a heavy season, but it was worth the ride and worth the watch. So if you want to watch something that's short each season, 10 to 9 episodes, check out Penny Dreadful. And if you've seen the first 2, go ahead and check out the final season and binge watch that. You're not going to regret it. And yeah, especially if you're a fan of different literature. If you're a fan of like Frankenstein, Dracula, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Portrait of Dorian Gray, check this out. You will not regret it, and it is something to be watched. Superb show. from beginning, middle, and end. And great acting, writing, score. I just wish that they had some of the subplots tightened up a bit more, but overall the story did end. I wasn't sure where they could go with it, really. I mean, you could have had Frankenstein resurrect Vanessa Ives through Victor Frankenstein, but everybody had their ending and demons to fight in life. It's almost like the more things change, the more they stay the same, really. And Penny Dreadful was by far, like I said before in my other 2 reviews, not a dreadful show. And is definitely more valuable than a penny. So yeah, that is just my review and thoughts on Penny Dreadful Season 3. I thought it was a fantastic ending. And the stuff they did do was just crazy. And then Renfield, I liked him and some of the lines from the novel, and then like listen to them, Children of the Night, what music they make, was referred to many times as Sarah Green's character in Dracula. Overall, just fantastic. So the story moments were there, the heartfelt moments were there, the build-up, and then when it got to the action delivered. So yeah, Penny Dreadful was good. Anyway, that's my review of Penny Dreadful Season 3, and check out my other YouTube videos. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe. What was your favorite moment if you've seen Penny Dreadful? What was your favorite moment of Season 3? What is your favorite season of Penny Dreadful? I like this one, but again, I think I may like Season 2 the best. I would probably put it 2, 3, and then 1. But 1 and 3 are like really close, and I'd probably put Season 2 as my favorite, my personal favorite. But Season 3 by far has like the best cinematography and just scope. So yeah, that's my thoughts. Let me know yours. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and see you later in the next binge reviews. It's either going to be the From Dusk Till Dawn's or the new Luke Cage on Netflix. I have to see, but it's going to be a show that can be streamable and that you can binge watch. Anyway, that's it for Binge Reviews. My name is Frederick Lopez. Have a good day and check out my other stuff. And check out Penny Dreadful.